All right.
Here we go. Hello, Chocobros and Mugals. Tonight we have a very, very special guest, Peter St. Paul. I'm just kidding. I know people joke or people usually get your name wrong, but it's Paul St. Peter. I've did some research on that.
Okay.
I just wanted to make a quick little joke. I knew you'd probably like that. So how are you?
I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic, very fantastic. It's such an honor to to talk to you. I mean, I know we spoke a little bit in the messages, and I said
Hmm.
how grateful I am to be able to talk to people that I've looked up to as a child. And I did some research and stuff. I watched some of your interviews, so I do so I don't ask the same questions, and it's not a boring interview and trying to make it a fun interview for you. So
Okay. Thank you.
how's everything going? I know we're in this amidst COVID and stuff like that. Are you doing any work right now, or
Actually, I've been fairly busy with recording here at home.
okay?
Um, Last year, a friend of mine sheltered with me for about 2.5 months, and he and I together put up a pretty good recording booth here, and it's been enough to where I've been able to record for oh well, lots of different projects. Several times for Miraculous Ladybug, and I just am lately working on Yashahime, uh, the uh, Princess Half Demon, but I can't tell you anything further except that I'm just working on that.
Okay.
And I did, let's see, a couple of different live action series, some stuff for Netflix. So actually, given my home setup is pretty good, and the results have been very good based on the work I'm sending out. I've been rather lucky in that sense. I've been
Mhm.
able to get some work done here at home, and some studios are reopening, so I'm able to go in. But their time is very limited. They can have me work, and then they have to wait a half an hour until they bring someone else in. So it's not the usual roller coaster of actors coming in and out really quickly.
Yeah. So that was one of my questions. Do you prefer being in the studio, or it's probably more relaxed being at home? But which do you prefer?
Well, I greatly prefer being in the studio for many different reasons. Yes, it's great to in the summertime when it's very hot and the booth, I can't air condition it because of the noise. So I wear cargo shorts and my Nikes, but no shirt because it's just hot.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's relaxed, and I don't have to drive any place. On the other hand, what I love about going into a studio is we don't have to spend any time at all worrying about internet speed, Ethernet.
Mhm.
Um, at home, you have to worry about that. In the studio, I don't have to worry about the guy with the leaf blower outside, or yeah, and the jets flying overhead. And I'm near Van Nuys Airport, so that's where the helicopters for the LAPD and every news station are based.
Oof.
So yeah, they decide to come flying low. Now, mostly it's not a problem. Most of the time, I can do my work and not be interrupted. Uh, but the nice thing is when you go into a studio, you never have to worry about any of that. It's designed for what we want to do. We don't have to deal with the crap in.
Mhm. Now is the direction. I like the shirt. Nice shirt, by the way. Nice. That is a nice shirt. So I
It
know
says
you.
Naruto on the sleeves, both
Nice.
sides. This was a gift from, yeah, I saw that. I see the hidden leaf first thing, so I know.
hmm So I know you don't usually play like the games that you've 'cause I know you've done Xemnas and Kingdom Hearts, and you said you don't usually play the games that you voice. Now were you a fan of anime or gaming before? Because I know you started with theater, and then the voice acting kind of came later, correct?
Well, yes. Most of the actors I know that are voice actors began with stage work.
Mhm.
Some began more in terms of doing film and not so much stage, but grounding yourself as a legitimate actor is what you need to do.
Mhm.
For me, I began very much doing stage. I did a ton of stage, anything from comedy reviews to grand opera and Shakespeare. As far as the anime goes, I grew up with back in the old days, very old days, when they called these things cartoons,
Mhm.
and they were all the hand-drawn things, and you could see funky things like when somebody turned their head, half of their mustache would disappear. Um, that was old style anime. Uh, but the acting in it very often was really superior because you really did need to bring the characters to life. Um, because it wouldn't be the picture. The picture wasn't going to wow anyone. It had to be done in terms of what the actor did with the voice and the acting choices they made. The direction that you get um, has evolved greatly because things have evolved. Direction and acting and performing for a video game is much, much different from other things. The demands are different. Um, you don't get to really, for the most part, in my experience, I don't get to really respond to other people. Essentially, what they're doing is giving me a cue and telling me how they want me to do it, what the intention is. But I don't get to look at an entire script and see how the dialogue goes from A to B to C, or used to call a character arc and stuff like that. I don't get to do that. My challenge as an actor is I need to bring the intensity and the emotion and the very dynamic choices. In other words, choices that are more important for me as the actor, as the character, and for the other ones to listen to. So that in fact, what you're doing is raising the stakes each time you're performing. Um, when we do that, you guys notice it. Um, I did play a fair number of video games growing up as they became more popular, but there were very, very few that had any actual voice acting in them. Um, when you first begin seeing things like Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2, you will see the so-called lip sync. It was like they didn't care. Either they voiced it first and animated it later, or they just threw in a little bit of animation, a few flaps here and there, and then you had to communicate what was going on in the scene. Like, stay here, I'll be right back with more weapons. Um, so that's stay here, I'll be right back. Okay, that's 10 flaps. And they might only move their mouth 3 or 4 times. Uh, but you knew that character was speaking and they just communicated what you needed to know as a player. So that, that was all fine. It's gotten much, much more sophisticated to where now when I'm in the booth with, when I'm doing Xemnas, or for that matter, the 2 or 3 video games I've done as Kurama, the nine-tailed demon fox, uh, they have a camera right on my lower face. So now they're actually filming as you speak. That's why now when you see games, the lip sync, the movement, the matching, everything like that is so much better than it was even 5 years ago.
Yeah, I've just even with graphics, you have to because there's so much more like animated. Um, uh, so what are your like besides obviously you love voice acting? What are your hobbies outside? Like, what do you enjoy? What are your other
Well,
things you
let's see.
enjoy?
I like to barbecue.
Love
Uh,
barbecue. I'm a bigger guy. I
yeah,
love me some
I
barbecue.
created some of my own. Oh, you bet. That's for me. Being able to create my own seasonings, and then uh, my neighbors love me and hate me because I take hickory chips and I soak them in red wine, and then I put those chips on the coals live, and then I put the grill down, and then I put chicken, or like pretty soon I'll be doing some tri-tip roast again, and I slow barbecue that in such a way that the smoke just billows out. And when you do it that way, when you use your barbecue as a smoker, um, you really get intense smoke, and the neighbors smell it, and it's like nothing else because the combination of the seasoning that I created myself, the hickory or mesquite chips, depending on what you use, of course, soaked in red wine or white wine, or sometimes in beer. You combine that with the smell of the beef dripping onto the fire, and it drives people out of their minds.
Oh,
And they all say the same thing.
oh.
Your barbecue smells like no one else's. Oh my God. Cooking indoors, the kind of things that I do, I create my own stews and soups. And I like woodworking. Um, As far as getting out of the house and doing things, when I can get away and go down to Baja, I go fishing. Um, my family has been into that for a very, very long time. I've been doing it for about 20 years, down in the Sea of Cortez. I've been down there for Thanksgiving for the most part, but also in the summertime and in the fall. Excuse me. And I still have the record for the biggest fish caught in the family. I caught a 90-pound grouper. So when you're out in the salt water, that's where you get the big fish. And I've gotten the biggest one of all.
Nice.
He was mighty tasty too. So.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm better. I used to go crabbing with my uncle. He passed away a couple years ago, but I was a crabber, and I was young, but I would go fishing, but I'm not really too good at fishing. So like woodworking, what have you like stuff? You make furniture and stuff like that, or
Smaller things. I like to make a small shelving type things. Let's say like spice rack containers and stuff like that, and things that are practical for around the house. I created basically a holder for DVDs because I had a million DVDs every place and I was running out of shelf space. So I actually created these. And I've been cutting by hand now. Fairly recently, I got myself a miter saw. So I'm going to be able to do this stuff very, very fast now. Instead of sawing at funny angles and hoping that the Black & Decker workmate would hold, that stuff. I also stain and varnish the wood too. So I do little things like that.
Yeah, I know how you feel with the DVDs. I have so many books. I'm a reader. I love to read, especially not just manga, but like I like the old horror books and stuff like that. I'm big into Stephen King, so I have a whole collection. I actually have to get another bookshelf. But just so you know, I just like to break down the barrier and just let people see that you guys are also humans. And I mean, I know I fanboyed over you. I had the fan, as you say, the fangasm, because I grew up, and but I like to like show the hobbies and stuff, and let the fans know how the kind of hobbies you like to do and stuff like that, and like show the fans. But back to like the voice acting. You've played a variety of heroes and villains. Do you find it easier, or what do you like better, playing the heroes or the villains?
With the exception of Leomon in Digimon, I would have to say all of my other favorite characters have been the villains. There's something about the way you can write a villain where you can make him, I'd say, a lot more varied and give him a lot more levels. Because you have to remember, as an actor, you're not playing a villain, you're playing a character. The writer made him a villain, the storyline made him a villain, but you're being a person, you're being a character of some kind. So the opportunity to give the client what they want, which is some kind of a villainous voice, for instance, like this, and yet you still want things, you still function, you still go through life asking for things and buying things and stuff like that. But it's that undercurrent of what's going on with the character that is much more interesting. The thing about being a hero is you go out and you do heroic things. It's not often, and again, this is a case where you see characters that are well written, they're heroic, but they always throw something in there to make the person doubt themselves a little bit, or wonder if this is the right course, or I had to, kill somebody because that's what was required of me. But that conflicted feeling, why did I have to do that? Could there have been some other way? When you write a character like that, that's when you're giving them the subtleties and the nuances. But if it's just like, I'm here, I'm going to save the world, yay, and then the half an hour is over and the show's done, so you want to make sure that the writing that you're exploring really does give you those different levels and different depths. The villainous characters typically are the best ones are the ones that make you guess, because take a look at the way, and I don't know if you played Kingdom Hearts 3 all the way through. Um,
Played all of
it-
I mostly the 1, 2, 3. I haven't played like the side ones, many of them like
okay,
Dream Drop Distance and stuff, but the main
yeah,
series I have.
okay. If you watch the way things kind of wound up, the way things ended,
Mhm.
um, there was much, much more sympathy for Xemnas. Bad guy throughout, okay, villain within the storyline, that sort of thing. Generally speaking, that's very, very true. But think about the final scenes and the final lines and the things that the other characters were asking Xemnas. Doesn't it hurt you? Doesn't it bother you? And the lines, and for anyone who's going to watch this that doesn't know the end, I'm not going to say anything.
Mhm.
Um, but you will be in for a treat because there are differences, there are subtleties. The nuanced element of the character comes out. It has been that way as the series has gone on because the writers have been able to flesh the characters out and develop them more. Um, it took a long time for 3 to come out, and they really took their time with the script. They used that time to really make those things work. One person, a fan of mine on Instagram, had to send a general message. It wasn't a DM to me, it was just a general message, but she knew that I would be reading it because that's how we talk to each other, just doing tweets. And she said, if you had told me 2 weeks ago that I would cry at the end of Kingdom Hearts, I would have laughed at you. She said, well, I just finished the game and thank you for turning me into a sobbing mess. Um, because it does really affect people in many, many different ways at the end. Um, and again, I won't go any further than that, but just those of you who haven't gotten to that point yet, just be ready. There's a culmination, a wonderful culmination of all these things that sort of line up and in a way end.
Actually, speaking of Kingdom, I forgot I have a filter on my background. But speaking of Kingdom Hearts, I was actually lucky to grab one of these special promotional posters from GameStop.
Cool.
So just wanted to show that off. I like to show off my my nerd stuff. Um. Oh, so it's such a pleasure to talk to you. I'm kind of like flabbergasted that I'm able to just it still kind of boggles my mind. I know I was talking about how I want to show that you guys are just as human as we are, but it still boggles my mind. I'm some kind of hypocrite in that sense. Um, but I've known in the past you talked about stock voices and stuff like that. Now, when did you realize that you had the passion and the skill to create voices and create these characters?
Well, in as far as a kid growing up watching cartoons, I really did play with the voices a lot. Okay. I was convinced I sounded just like them too, and I didn't, you know. Underdog was played by a wonderful actor named Wally Cox. Um, and he was known more for his on-screen film and television work, but he also voiced some things, and one of them was Underdog. And when he would say, "There's no need to fear, Underdog is here," and when I would be watching that as a kid, and I'd be like 10, 11 years old or whatever, and I would be trying to do that voice. What that did for me though at a young age was I kept playing around and moving my voice and placing my voice differently. Now, this is why I stress to people, do not set out to be a voice actor. If you want to go into voice acting, you have to become an actor first and ground yourself in the technique. I was quite fortunate in that I encountered American and British actors who taught me coming up when I was in my early 20s. Use of Shakespeare, poetry, um, verse and prose and narrative poetry, learning how to use my voice as a speech teacher. And I never meant to be a teacher, but I sort of accidentally became a speech teacher because every teacher that ever taught me said, "You should come teach with me. You're good at this." And I don't know. I never meant to do it. I hated school. I didn't want to keep teaching. But as it turned out, I was good at it. I didn't think about that. I was just trying to get through the job and get paid. But everybody said, "Oh my God, you're terrific." In the process of doing that, I was learning how that the tools work,
Mhm.
how the voice works, how to create the sounds and the way your resonance changes just by moving articulators. And because of that, I experimented more and more, and I was starting to create voices by doing that. By the time I got my first demo done, which was about 30 years ago, um, I was doing a workshop with a terrific uh, DJ that was here in LA by the name of MG Kelly. He taught a workshop also. And so I went in and did the workshop with him, and he had access to the entire CBS sound effects library. So when you recorded your character voices, he would take your recordings and he would make this kick butt demo for you. Well, the second part of my demo, which totaled about a minute and 10 seconds, I did 20 different voices in a row. And each of them different, some with accents and dialects, some just characters, some monsters, some kind of like my voice, but you know, I played around with it a little bit, and you know, just it's a slight change here and there, you know, just to sort of show off the range. And when I did that in the workshop before we did the recording, he had all of us that were in there try our stuff out. Everyone listened. I was the one that everybody applauded. They heard me do those 20 things in a row, and they were all distinct, sharp as a razor, each one of them a character that you could listen to and say that he sounds just like this or that. And then MG told everybody in the workshop, he said, I would be an idiot to compete against this guy. So that kind of let me know that I was on the right track in terms of what I could do, you know, in making a living, etc. Because I had been doing it for a few years, but not to that degree. And I still say to people to this day, most of the voices I've created, I've never used. A couple of years ago, I auditioned for a piece that my agent set me up to do, and recorded here at home. And when I sent my 2 takes into her, she emailed me back and said, my God, Paul, who did you hire to do that audition? I cannot hear your voice at all, you know. And that all has to do with when you talked about, you know, the ability and, you know, being able to do that. That's always a good question. Where did you develop this? That has to do with the use of the articulators, how you actually pinch your voice off a little bit, which is bad for you. I keep telling people, don't do that unless you get taught. But when you do that sort of thing, and you can create a voice that's so different that no one would recognize you, you know. When I got my character picture done for Master Fu and Miraculous Ladybug, I posted it on Twitter and said, hey, everybody, this is my newest artwork from my wonderful artist, Alyssa. And it was just a cascade of people going, wait, you can't be Master Fu. You can't be, you know. The reaction I get when they know that I did Wormon, but they know that I'm also Xemnas. That reaction I get, that can't be you. It's so different. They are so different, you know. But again, it's a lot of it as the technique. But the most important part is that you're not just doing voices, you're actually bringing a character and a personality, you know. If you know Digimon well, especially the second season, and you get to know Wormmon very well, it was a sweet, fun little voice, but the thing that struck people most was how sad and pathetic and lovable Wormmon was.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the writing, which was just dynamite. Oh my heavens. I see the writers to this day and I still say thank you, you know. It has to do with bringing the character to life, bringing the emotion to it. So when something bad happens to the character and they're crying, you need to be in that space. You need to bring the acting choices. That's what I meant when I said earlier by nuance and levels and dynamics. You need to be able to bring those things, not just do a funny voice.
Yeah. It's kind of like being in that headspace and feeling the same emotions as the character.
Absolutely. And when it's good writing, it's easier to do that. Heaven knows I've done a lot of bad stuff. And it's harder to act when the writing is bad. Sometimes they're not clear about what they want. Sometimes it's someone who did a translation from Japanese. I've done quite a lot of stuff that was from Japanese. I did one series that was translated from German, and I have done quite a few that are translated from French. And if the translator is good, they're going to write what the original screenwriters or copy, whoever it was, people that contributed that, and they'll bring that to life for you. As an actor, when the material's good, you can do a much better job. There's less of a struggle. You can give yourself over to the character and what they're experiencing.
What would you say was the hardest character to bring to life and like get the voice down for, or if not, there wasn't one, or the easiest?
Well, there are some characters you just feel like you were made to play.
Mm-hmm.
They're just right for you. Wormon is probably the one in terms of being able to connect with the character and really make the dialogue work, because of the sweetness, because of the dedication and the loyalty, but also the sadness. You're able to bring elements like that up from yourself. I tell people a lot of times, you're going to become a better actor as you get older because you're simply going to experience more life. That I would say probably in terms of connecting would have been about the easiest one to do. I can't think of a one that was terribly difficult for me that I actually continued to do. There were a couple of things I've done in a few shows where what I was doing just wasn't working and I was replaced. So there are those times when it doesn't work. And most directors understand that's going to happen. Because I do so many different voices and because I do so many different uh, dialects and accents, I'm called upon to do a lot more than most people do. And inevitably, there will be those times when it simply doesn't work. That's just the way it's going to happen. I've been replaced by other actors. I've gone in and replaced other actors. Bobobo?
I don't think I've ever heard of that.
Yeah, Bobobo is the name of the show.
Mhm.
Okay,
I'll
Richard
have to check it
Epcar.
out.
Yeah, Richard Epcar was Bobobo, and I was Captain Battleship. I came in to replace another actor. I didn't know anything about this at the time, but I found out later I was replacing another actor. And why did they have to replace him? It wasn't his acting, it wasn't his voice. He literally couldn't say bo 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 bo.
Wow.
You have to be able to say, if you can't say the name of that other character you're talking to,
Mhm.
you can't do the show.
Boba
So
boba
he
boba
couldn't
bo.
bo 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 bo.
Boba 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 bo.
Yeah. So you can imagine how somebody might have a hard time with that. I mean,
Yeah.
I've done voiceover from anything from animation to live action, um, to narration, and I've handled probably 25 different languages. Um, it's simply not easy to just jump in and do something. And Boba 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 Bo is an example of what it's not considered really a different language, but it is something very different you're asking yourself to
Yeah.
do. When I did Resident Evil 5, um, I was simply called in to do this. The director knows me. She knows I'm good. She knows I can do a lot of things. So I walked in and they handed me a sheet of lines I was going to say as a zombie. And they were all in Swahili. And so she said, "Can you handle that?" Okay. Now I'm also a linguist. One of my hobbies, I always talk about cooking and woodworking and fishing and traveling, but one of my hobbies is also linguistics because I'm something of a scholar,
Mhm.
quote unquote scholar. And I know quite a bit about linguistics. I know quite a bit about history. I love history,
Same.
and I've studied a lot of South African history and specifically Zulu. Now, Zulu is a Bantu dialect, and so is Swahili. And so when she handed me this sheet of paper with all these lines, I said, "Oh, okay, it's close to Zulu. I can do it." And so here I was saying all these things in Swahili, which it has its similarities to Zulu because again, they're two dialects of one big branch of a language called Bantu. Um, that's one thing where they're going to hand that to an actor, and maybe that actor can't do it. So yeah, we might have to get somebody to come in and do that. As I say, I've replaced other people. Other people have replaced me. My use of language and my ability to be able to hear the sound is something that I just say thank you, mom and dad, because whereas I have those things, I've developed them. Some people have a good ear for sound. Some people can do sound that don't have a good ear, and vice versa. I'm very fortunate. I was born with the ability to hear it and be able to do it. And the nuances in pitch and pacing, uh, like I say, Zulu is a great example of stuff like that. It calls upon you to do a bunch of different things. Um, because I studied and studied and wrote things down and wrote things down, I never expected to speak Zulu at any point. But I went in for a movie of the week for Disney to voice it. It was a really crappy thing called Tarzan in Manhattan. Don't bother. If you ever see it, don't bother. Don't waste your time. But the film began in Africa, and the guy running the voiceover group said, I know you do stuff like this. Bring anything you have. And I happen to have all of my notes that I wrote down in Zulu. So I was teaching all of the other actors how to speak Zulu. Again, I
You're
wrote it
teaching.
down because it's my interest. That's all. I thought, well, okay, I never thought I would use it, but I brought it in and I was teaching them how to say these Zulu phrases and stuff like that, and how to use the pitch and the lilt, which is the same as Italian. When you hear Zulu spoken, you're going like, that sounds familiar. It's because they pitch down the same way you do in Italian. It's exactly the same. It's called a lilt. You lilt down. Espresso degno. Ah, sì, fratello, come si dice? Like that. And so you see how I'm lilting down.
Yep.
Okay. And then in Zulu, we would say, Langali balele, Nesa kakoko, Ingubamakosi.
Kind of goes.
Yeah, it's weird when you're listening to Zulu, you won't understand a single thing, but there will be something strangely familiar to you. It's the lilt, And again, same as Italian.
See, I was never too good with learning different languages. I tried in school, but I couldn't really get a grasp on it. I always wanted to learn Japanese though.
Most of us actors do that when we first start. We say, I'm going to learn to speak fluent Japanese.
Yeah.
I remember we were doing a benefit years ago after Japan was hit by that terrible, terrible the earthquake and then the tidal waves and all that stuff. And we were doing a benefit called I Heart Japan, and they brought in several actors, and I went in to participate just to kind of say hello. I didn't actually get up on stage and read because they did an episode of Cowboy Bebop,
Punch.
But yep, Steve was up there, and they were asking him about his career and all that stuff, and he said, yeah, like a lot of actors, I thought I'm going to learn to speak fluent Japanese, and most of us don't. It's very, very difficult. My pronunciations are very good. How I would necessarily be able to pick the language up in conversation is a different story. Everyone who hears me speak Japanese always looks at me like, wow, whereas they say Sugoi, which is awesome.
Sugoi.
Yeah, Sugoi.
Nice.
So
I learned a word.
Oh, yeah, there you go. When I actually speak Japanese in a session and say names in Japanese, people that are fluent Japanese speakers always look at me. They're a little mystified that I can do that. It's my penchant for languages. It's my natural ability for languages. Does that mean, for instance, when my French pronunciations are really good, that I speak fluent French? No. I sound really good because I'm good with the languages, good with the pronunciations. That doesn't mean I know what I'm saying. My Spanish, I speak quite a bit of Spanish, but I will say a full line in Spanish that sounds like I'm right out of Mexico. And I don't know what I just said. I just happen to know how they're said. That's all.
So, what do you, if there was a character that what's one character that you'd love to play? Like, out of anything, movies, anime, video games, what would like your one dream character be? You've probably been asked this before, but
well, forms of that, like what would you like to do that somebody else has done, that sort of thing. So in a way, I've heard that before.
I
but that's a
apologize.
different way you put it. And I'm glad you put it. No, no, it's okay. I'm glad you put it the way you did because, when you get asked for the 48th time um, in 48 cons, what's one character that you've seen that you'd like to have done instead of the actor? First of all, it kind of puts a pressure on you, like, oh my God, Um, uh, I would love to have done, and this again, not criticizing the actor that did it. Thought he was dynamite. I wouldn't change it, damn. But it's just one of those terrific characters. You wish you could do it. I would love to have done Samurai Jack.
Oh,
Um,
Samurai Jack was
Phil,
great.
yeah, Phil Lamar did it. He was just absolutely terrific. He did a wonderful, wonderful job. It's just a wonderful series. One of my favorites as far as the anime style, um, but also the way it was written, the humor. And in a sense, the pathos, when you look at this character and what he went through during the entire beginning and middle and end of this entire storyline, and how it basically did end well, luckily. Many of my characters die. So Samurai Jack actually, finished pretty well. But I would love to have done that role. And again, Phil, fantastic job. Would not change a thing about the way he did it. It's just such a good role. I wish I could have played it.
Such a, I can still can't believe I'm talking to you. This is so great.
Oh,
I don't want to keep you too long though, but I do have one more question for you. What do you think you're like? You've probably been asked this also, so I hope my questions were diverse. I kind of did a little bit of studying on you, so I didn't bore you with my questions and tried to give you a nice diverse set of questions. Um, what do you think your best, like your favorite or best accomplishment was, like something that you wouldn't have been able to accomplish without the like voice acting, or with voice acting?
oh,
Hope I didn't confuse you.
okay. Well, as far as being able to do things because I'm an actor, you mean?
Mhm.
Oh
Well,
yeah,
like your greatest accomplishment.
Oh,
Like
wow.
I know you won an award in 2015, correct?
Oh, I was nominated for a couple of things behind the voice actors.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
I can't remember if I actually won one. I had two nominations. I can't remember if I won one of them or not. I kept looking and I couldn't find out who the winners were. I
Um.
think that was BTVA behind the voice actors, or
Let's
maybe you
see.
have it there. I don't know.
Let's see if I can pull it up real quick for you. Yeah, behind the voice actors, right?
Yeah, I was nominated for uh, part of Best Ensemble and Best Supporting Actor.
Sorry, my computer is so slow. I'm gonna be building up desktops very soon.
You're doing a lot right now too. Zoom slows people down. Those of us who work via Zoom on Source Connect recording an episode have that same problem. We're asking our computers to do a lot of stuff at one time. So we do have glitches and little hooks.
Yes, nominee, best male supporting performance, Dr. Isaac Gilmore, Reese Cyborg.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I kept looking around, but I didn't see what the results were. I didn't know if I won or not. I didn't get an email saying congratulations. So.
I apologize. I didn't. I read it wrong.
Yeah, that's all right.
But if there is one voice actor who does deserve an award, it's definitely you. With just such a, I'm not even saying it because I'm talking to you, but you just the diverse characters you play and like just it's crazy. It's mind boggling how all these voices can come from one person. I knew you did Kurama, but I'm looking at like you did I can't Wan Xiao from Dynasty Warriors, correct?
No, you on show. Yeah,
Wan Xiao from Dynasty Warriors. You
yeah.
like you did Lupin, the character from Lupin the Third. It's mind boggling how many. And you did Zetsu also from Naruto, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. In uh, Lupin the Third, the movie was called The Secret of Mamo, and I played Mamo, the main character. Um, and that was kind of fun because I went into audition and they had two ideas. that they wanted me to try. And so have him do 2 takes, have him read it this way, and then have him read it this way. Now, this is a situation where I'm glad I knew the director, because I said, may I try one way? And he said, sure. Sometimes when you ask, they don't have time, or they just don't want to bother, because you'll run into people that are just tired of what they're doing, either that day or they're tired of life. Most of the time I'm finding people that I've worked with before. So when you ask, oh, sure. So that's when I did the take with Lupin as a Brit. I'm sorry, with Mamo as a Brit. And that's the one they took. Just like when I read for the narrator of
Soul Calibur.
Yeah, thank you, Soul Calibur. My mind is stuck on Resident Evil still. So yeah, with the Soul Calibur 5 and 6, when I went in for Soul Calibur 5, I read it a couple of different ways, and I said, may I try this? And this is a studio called Cup of Tea, and the ladies that run it are just wonderful. They're just absolutely goddesses. I said, may I try it a different way? They said, oh, go ahead. So that's when I did it with the voice of Xemnas. And that's the one they picked because I asked, because you never know. Maybe they would have chosen something else I did. But it felt to me as an actor, as a performer, as a professional, and also as someone who might want to listen to this and play it later on, that probably would be the best quality they were after. And so when they were going to do Resident Evil 6, they asked the ladies at Cup of Tea, can you get us the same guy back again? I went, oh, you bet. And the writing in 6 was really wonderful. I love the new exposition. It's a good example of one of those things where as a game series goes on or a TV series goes on, an anime, a manga, all this stuff, as it goes on, the developers of it, especially the writers and directors of this, have more time to learn it and get better with it. And if the writing gets better, the show will get better. 6 had really wonderful things for me to say, wonderful things for me to talk about, and outlining the story for everyone and giving them the background, what the characters meant, what the world was. When you talk about a region and this is where all of the dogs have stripes down their backs or something like that. It's the kind of thing where when the writing is better, it's just a joy to do. That was a tough session because they had to get everything done in 4 hours.
Wow.
And then when I arrived, they said, they handed us a whole bunch of stuff. Can you go 5 hours? And the problem is when you're doing that kind of work, any given person, any given speaker, whereas I'm energetic and I'm still strong and I lift and speed walk and I do all these things to take care of myself, as an actor standing in front of a microphone, you're physically good for about 3 or 4 hours with an edge. You start to lose that once you get past that point. But they gave all this new work and they said, do you mind? And I said, oh, okay, let's just do the best we can. I'll try. And it was strange because after we hit about 3.5 hours and got closer to 4 hours, I could feel I was losing a little bit of it. And then the final cue, when we were almost at 5 hours, the final cue was the longest one. And I got it done in 1 take. So you never know. I mean, that was one of those where I just took a deep breath and said, let's go. Let's just do it.
Let's get it done.
It happened to work. But I mentioned that in terms of when you're using different voices and coming up with different ideas, because you want to go ahead and put in mind, how would I like to do this? What do I think would be better? And then if you do get an opportunity, ask, because a lot of times, as with Lupin the Third, Secret of Mamo, and with Soul Calibur, the choices I made for the voice ended up being the ones that they wanted. So that stuff does happen. You want to go ahead and just at least ask. But always when you go in there, be thinking, this is what they want. I want to give them what they want because they sign the checks. You have to remember that, of course. But always, if you have an idea that you'd like to try, ask. Sometimes you'll do it and they'll go, okay, thank you. And then nothing, but it's always good because sometimes that inspiration that came to you is better than anything they had in mind. It can happen.
You are the ones with the, I mean, there's talents on both sides, but you are the ones that bring the life to the characters, and your ideas should be taken into account.
Sure. I mean, when I'm in a session and I just come up with a thought on the spot, I will often just do it
Mhm.
live and I won't even ask. And then I will say afterwards, I changed this. Does that work better?
And sometimes that's when the best takes or the best scenes or interactions or with characters come from, is when it's just from the top.
Oh, yeah. It's in the middle of an interaction and you're inspired. You know, something hits you from above and boom, you come out with it. It's fresh. You didn't have a time to, time the time to think about it and screw it up. You just you were able to throw it out there and it happened to work. That's the best thing. I've certainly repaired lines as I went along. Um, Sometimes, like I would be doing narration for what are called industrial things. Okay, so if you work for UPS, those guys learn how to use those hands. They used to call them, pilots.
Yep.
But that stuff that they use and all that, they need to learn that stuff. I
Mhm.
used to do the CDs that they used to teach people that stuff.
I used to work at Kohl's in the shoe department. We used to have to use like a thing like that to find like what sections each shoe was in and stuff like that.
That's right. Yeah, it's all that stuff. And in my particular case with that, and I did this for Budweiser and United Airlines and Sun Microsystems and all that stuff. I talked about how to use things.
Mhm.
And then I would see like the writer didn't get the tense correct. Okay. This one does, those do. Okay. So they would say this one do, or those does, and not, not that bad, but I mean, you can see what I'm talking about. I would see at the beginning of the line that they said it proves the beginning was correct.
Oh, can you hear me?
Okay, now I can
get,
hear you.
yeah, I guess we had a little connection problem.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry about that. I apologize. It's
Oh,
never
quite all right. But
never
what I
happened.
was saying to wrap that up is that there are times when I, as an actor, being pretty good with language and understanding grammar and things like that, which I never was any good at, but I'm finding out my not very good is better than most people's, anything. Uh, so as I'm going along and reading these things, I'm fixing them as I go. And that's one of my favorite compliments. I had someone come up to me afterwards and says, "You read it better than we wrote it." That was nice to hear.
Maybe they were right about you being a teacher. You've seem like you did a lot of teaching.
Yeah, I never meant to be an instructor. I never even went to college, but I've taught at 4 universities.
I mean, even in this conversation, you've taught me. You've taught me. You taught me a new word. I forgot it already. Well, it was Japanese for awesome, right? Soy,
Sugoi.
Sugoi,
Sugoi.
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 I
I
know.
was doing a convention in North Carolina a couple of years ago, and this one is called Animazement, and I only went once. They want me to come back. It would have been last year, but because of the pandemic, but I hope I can go back because one of the things they do is they bring Japanese cosplayers
Mhm.
and musicians and stuff. They bring like 7, 8 different people from Japan. Um, there was one young guy there, and everybody's fun, and we all have a good time together. We wouldn't necessarily speak the language, but everybody's having a good time at the con. So I could hear on the other side of this partition, this young guy was talking to someone, and he said, "Person, Kurama, Kurama," and then he comes around the partition. He says, "Person, Kurama." I said, "Hi." He said, "Sugoi, sugoi, 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 sugoi." I got 900 Sugois out of just that one little, hi.
Oh, wow. This is. I'm sorry. I'm still fangasming.
That's okay. There was a guy that at the United Arab Emirates, they
Mhm.
have an event there and a shop and stuff like that they do. So I was talking to a guy in the UAE.
Mhm.
Um, uh, he was there with his Arabic friend, um, and he was asking me questions.
Mhm.
And when I did the Kurama voice for him, he started almost falling off of his chair. And his friend next to him, his name was Muhammad. I
Mhm.
said, Muhammad, grab him, don't let him fall over. Muhammad said,
What's going on with this internet?
yeah, I know Zoom tends to cut out after a certain amount of time. And then what you do is you just refresh.
Mhm.
And in other words, it gives you an hour automatically.
Mhm.
And then if you want to go another hour, you can.
Okay.
So we're kind of in that neighborhood of that area.
All right. I hope I
Um,
didn't lose all the footage. It does save all everything, right?
as long as you have record on, but
Yeah,
I
it's
think
recording.
because it keeps saying recording up here, so I think you're
Yeah.
good.
Okay. I
Yeah,
apologize. I don't mean for this to happen. I apologize.
not to worry. We're all dealing with all sorts of different tech because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Because I cannot tell you the number of headaches we've gone through um, trying to work on animated series where the director, like, well, here's a good example. Last week, we tried to do a session, and we won't be able to actually get it done until this week on Thursday. But last week we did it. We spent 2 hours trying to figure this out with my director, who's Laura Post, who's just wonderful, good voice
Mhm.
actress too, but also a great director. She is in, I think, Valley Village, not far from where I live,
Mhm.
and I'm here in Van Nuys, and our director was in North Carolina. Okay, so imagine all the fun stuff there. But we're trying to work through Zoom and then work through a brand new um, software called ZooDub. It's the one that Netflix likes.
Mhm.
So they want us to do all this Netflix stuff on ZooDub. Well, it still has bugs, and actually we spent a couple of hours trying to fight through it and get it to finally work. Um, one of the problems was we were ready to get going, and then everything cut out. And when we all logged back on, ZooDub would not detect any of our microphones.
Wow.
Literally wouldn't say you have this, you have this, you have this. Um, and this was across the board. Everybody was having that problem. And so we rescheduled for this week. And again, that's going to be in 2 days. I'm hoping, crossing fingers, this time we can get the work done because it's not really a lot of stuff. And I'm not doing anything specific for, like a brand new major character. I'm doing a lot of incidental stuff.
Mhm.
Um, but you want this stuff to work every time. And whenever they introduce a new software, or we're dealing with Mercury being in retrograde,
Yeah.
or it's windy, or a dog's barking, that it can be a real nightmare at times. So I'm crossing my fingers we'll be able to get that job done and wrap on the job itself.
Well, I thank you so much. I don't want to keep you too long, and I don't want to Zoom to ruin this amazing, amazing interview. Um, I just want to thank you so much for agreeing. Hopefully, I can get you on again. Um, and hopefully, we can become friends. I mean, you're such a great teacher. I've learned so much from you just in this meeting. So thank you so much. And I don't know.
Yeah, I'd love to come back again.
Um, look, now he shows up. We're ending, and now he shows up. We're ending,
Dude,
and now he shows up.
dude, I told you I was at the chiropractor. Remember, I'm West Coast time. You're East Coast time.
Yeah.
All right. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, we was wrapping up. We're having a couple issues right now. It keeps like stopping and like reconnecting and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So we're trying to.
Like was it like your time ran out?
I don't
or-
know, but we're
Well,
yeah.
I have come across that in the past where it appears, I think this is the way Zoom seems to work with everyone. When you log on, you have an hour to work with. That doesn't mean you can't do more, but they give you an hour at a time. Then you just, in effect, refresh,
Mhm.
reconnect with everybody. So then you can go on, because I've done autograph sessions where I had my first hour and it said Zoom is going to, blah, blah, blah in the next 30 seconds.
See,
And then all you do is basically reconnect with everybody.
Yeah,
I just
see-
tell everybody, stay here, I'll be right back.
See, it hasn't even said that. It's just like it goes to like where if you freeze up, and
Mhm.
then it goes to the main page, and then it says reconnecting.
Yep.
So I don't. This actually Nightfall. This is the one who handles usually all the
Hey there.
invites and handles all of our meetings and stuff like that.
Mm.
This is the great Peter St. Paul. No, I'm just kidding. Paul St. Peter.
I'll get you for that.
But hopefully everything will be. I mean, you would do anything? Would you like to talk a little more? Or are you,
I do have to take care of a few other things as
Okay.
part of my day, unfortunately.
Yes,
One of
it's-
which is I'm a member of the Screen Actors Guild, and the SAG Awards are coming up,
nice.
and
Oh,
I'm
cool.
supposed to vote on those, which means I have a lot of stuff to still watch.
Yes.
So this is the time of year when we of necessity become couch potatoes.
Yep. Well, hopefully we can get you on again because this was a fantastic. I've learned so much from him. He's a fantastic person. He's intelligent beyond any person I've ever met. He's just intelligence is insane.
Oh,
And,
thank you so much, man.
I've fangasm over him the whole conversation.
That's not something.
So
But hey.
hopefully we can get you on again because this was besides Linda Young, this is one of my favorite interviews. You were fantastic.
Thanks.
And
Thank
you
you
were
so
just
much.
so
Thank you.
down to earth and awesome. Thank you so much, and I hope everybody enjoys this episode. And good luck with your what was it again? The what was it that you're doing?
The SAG Awards are going to be coming up, and all of us members in good standing are
You
expected to vote, and that means we have to watch a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Oh.
So I'm going to be finishing The Crown tonight and tomorrow, and there's one other film I need to watch before we get completely done, and then do my voting. So
Okay, well, good luck with that. It was for the millionth time. It was great meeting you, and thank you
thank
so
you,
much.
gentlemen,
Have a good one. Thank you.
and take
Have
care.
fun.